Hello all and welcome back to another recording. In the last episode, what we've understood was that we needed to reboot the ESXi host, and the reason why is because it was not being found in the devices. So in other words, my X710 T4, which is this PCI device here, right? This is the NIC, which was not being found, is now being found in our ESXi server. And that's exactly what we want. We want to make sure that our devices are found so that way we can either pass them through or direct traffic to where it needs to go correctly. Now, if we look back to the networking TrueNAS switch, which is my custom switch for my different virtual machines, which is like VireGuard, we have Plex, TrueNAS, that kind of thing, it's all coming out of this VMNIC4 physical adapter. So in other words, there's a translation going on between the virtual machines and the physical adapter here. So there's a way in which we can find out what the VMNIC4 is, and the way that I've come to understand what it is that it's the management port -1 over the total number of ports. So the total number of ports is what I mean by that is the total number of Ethernet ports on the system. In my case, that's 7. So that's 7 Ethernet ports. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But one of them is the management interface, which is this one over here. And one of them we take out from the array. So in other words, because it starts at 0, you can take it out. And what ends up happening is that you end up with 5 ports. Okay? Because it starts from 0 to 6, which is the usable number of ports, you -1 from this to become 5. Okay? That's the mathematics. So, as the label on the left suggests, we have one management, so we can minus that. VMNIC 0 is on the board. VMNIC 1 is also on the board. We can eliminate those two. And on top of that, if I go to the physical adapters, in other words, the physical NICs, what we see is that there's two different drivers. There's NTG3 and I40EN. That's another way that we can discern which potential slot we need to plug in the cable to. Okay. Okay, so NTG3 we know is on the board. These are these two NICs here. These are on the board. Now I40 stands for the Intel driver. So the Intel driver is on the NIC, which is this one down here. So I know that VMNIC4 is going to be on the NIC itself. Okay. So on the NIC itself, it starts from VMNIC2. We have 3, 4, which 3 has been damaged, so I don't use it. And we know that 4 now is this cable here, which is going into the board. Or more precisely, it's going into the NIC. That's more precise, not the board. The board is up there. So it goes into the NIC. VMNIC 5 is not being used either. So I know now that VMNIC 4 is going to be this port here. So if I plug that NIC into my physical switch, this will now resolve the issue between the communication of the TrueNAS DHCP, which is my switch, and the physical adapters. That simple plug there. Once that gets plugged in, then the next stage, which would be the next video, is to understand whether or not we're getting DHCP addresses. Now, the VLAN ID is 13, which is on the switch. So that means that in my physical switch itself, it needs to tag the switch, it needs to tag the port which is connected to the ESXi host with 13 as the ID. Then this will work correctly because my router can then distribute IP addresses to the virtual machines. Okay? And that's something that we'll explore in part 3 of the debugging